Good morning. This is Lakhi Singh, the property fixer, live on a Monday morning, and I have very special guest for you today. And we're going to be talking about how you can make money in property working from home. So, good morning to all of you. Hope you had a great weekend. And today is a beautiful day because the daylight hours have changed now, so we've got access to a lot more light and a lot more sunshine. So hopefully you're going to have a much longer, brighter, beautiful day than you usually do in the winter months. So that's exceptionally good news, and that's going to hopefully brighten things up. I presume the government's also decided to create the unlocking the lockdown during this nicer time of the year as well, so we get access to a lot more of the beauty and the nature in the UK to do our walks and the like, and also enjoy the new measures so that we're not curfewed as much. So I'm going to bring on this young lady. Is it Raman? One second. Good morning, Ramanji.
Good morning. How are you, Lakhi?
Oh, very well, thank you. Raman, first of all, do you Sat Sri Akal?
Sat Sri Akal.
Do you speak Punjabi?
I do.
That's what we should do the show in Punjabi. I think a bit like Sunrise Radio.
Yeah, that'll be good.
I was actually listening to Sunrise Radio earlier.
Right.
I thought, okay, got Lakhi Singh and Raman Kaur today, so you can actually bring up the vibe to a different level altogether with the Punjabi style.
Yes, it's a nice remix.
Yeah, are you which part of India are you originally from? Which part of Punjab?
Punjab, so I think it's Jalandhar. Yeah.
Have you been back to visit the family?
Well, I've been going over my lifetime many years. I think I've been about at least 10 times.
Really?
So it's been good. But I'd like to go more regularly. Obviously, at the moment, there's some issues over there. So it's a bit hard to go over. Obviously, with lockdown as well, of course. But with the protests and everything, it's even harder.
Yeah, you've got a lot going on internationally. Pretty much everything seems to be going a bit haywire. You've got Brexit, you've got COVID-19, and you've got you can only fly now if you've got a good reason to fly.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually saying to a couple of friends, there's a bit of a joke, which is I've got friend's anniversary. I haven't seen them for 10 years.
Oh.
That could be I haven't seen you for 10 years. I need to go and see them. It's the 10-year anniversary. You know, that could be a reason, couldn't it?
Yeah.
I just wonder how does one define what are the reasons you can actually travel and you can't travel? Because what might be essential to one person may be critical to another. What may be critical to another may be completely non-essential to somebody else. How can somebody actually decide that for you? Because, you know, there may be certain religious things that you've got to attend, or there's a certain type of anniversary which might be critical to you in your culture. Who decides these things? I mean, is that something that governments can actually decide? I'm just wondering.
Well, to be honest, they're the governing bodies of a country, so at the end of the day, they have the right to decide these things. But I guess it depends on how secularized they are, how accepting they are, and how, whether the people in the country have put on pressure to the government to accept them as they are and allow them to celebrate things and allow their essentials to become the same essentials that other people have. And to some extent, it's been accepted. I think perhaps there's more leniency here than there are in other governments, but it all depends. It completely depends. They do have the right, and it is down to safety at the end of the day. But then, I think it's down to your personal belief. There are people who believe I mean, a majority of people, I guess, in our culture, definitely, when you're going to go, you're going to go. What's going to happen is going to happen. So, in that respect, do we, not fly or go visit anniversaries or do things that are special for us? Do we just stay indoors and not fight for it? I think it's a personal belief, but the government's ultimately going to do what they believe is safe, isn't it?
Well, for example, might have a childhood friend who's become a sister in this rookery. Question is, is that, although I was sort of joking about the 10-year anniversary, that could be in a more of a religious or cultural context. You're it's a bit like, get in the English culture, you've got the godmother,
Mm-hmm.
they come for christenings.
Mm-hmm.
We've got quite a lot of distinct things within the Punjabi culture, which is
Mm-hmm.
called Rakhi, for example. And then you want to tie the Rakhi around your sister, and you obviously, um, and you obviously want to give a gift to her.
Mm.
So the question is, would that be allowed, do you think?
Probably
At this
not.
one on Monday morning, but there we go.
Yeah. Probably not. I think it depends on whether the government or whoever is the deciding body can understand the significance of the celebration or the ceremony. I think that's what it depends on. And if we have people there who are multicultural who do understand the significance of it, then perhaps they may, But
Yeah, I think my bad guess, to be honest with you, just on a more of a serious note, I think it's unlikely that they'll allow that, because they'll probably think it's going to have a good reason, and they'll probably think, okay, well, a birthday is probably not even good enough, maybe. So you
yeah.
understand? So it could be, if it's your granddad's 100th birthday or something, I don't know. Will they allow that? I don't know. Anyway, today's topic, before we go on, we've got a big shout out from good morning from Sonia Lambert. I've got a few different platforms which I can see on here. So good morning for Berhan Noor, Lan Pasha, John Smith, Hazel Parker, Gudasman. Sorry, that was just a joke. Gudasman's not really.
Yeah, I didn't think. Okay. That's a good connection.
I won't really give you my joke. That's quite a bad joke when Gudasman when he visits Brixton. Have you heard that one yet?
No, I haven't. Go ahead.
No, I think I'll leave that one out. I think it might be it's going to be probably more embarrassing for me than the joke itself.
Okay.
I'll tell you it later. Otherwise, might be be non-PC, I think.
Okay.
Okay, so Raman, obviously last time you were on the show, I think I got delayed, and so it was only on part of the show. But this time round, we get a chance to have a chat and get engaged a bit more about your background. So tell me a little bit about yourself again. I think whereabouts are you based? And I know that you work from home and you're an accountant, and that you're like a spiritual accountant. So you bring people's spirits up and their numbers up as well somehow, which is always helpful. So tell us a bit more about where you're based and a little bit about your background. Where did you study? What did you do?
So I'm based in Barking and East London. That's where I work from, and that's most of where my business is. But it is nationwide. I do take clients nationwide as well, and speak to people generally. About being a spiritual accountant, I think that's the first time I've heard anyone say that, apart from John on Friday. Last Monday rather. A spiritual accountant. That's interesting. Can you bring somebody's numbers up? Yes, you can. If if you catch them in time, if you say to them, your numbers are looking a bit dodgy, perhaps we can do this, or perhaps, you can do this, and then they know exactly where they're going. And then, yes, of course, numbers can come up. It's not a problem.
So, I mean, I think brings up the question, do you, everything in business is about strategy, planning, organization, as well as obviously hitting your targets. Do you get involved in just forecasting and planning? Because ultimately that's a critical function of any business. But I'd say 95% of businesses don't really carry out that exercise unless they're probably like a mid-tier type or top-tier type organization where they have to, because they've got a lot of stakeholders and shareholders, and they've got to be seen to be actually be ticking all the boxes. But do you find any small businesses like a one-man band actually literally being organized to that extent? I mean, like even a 2-3 man company?
Not likely. It's not common at all. The majority do not do that because they don't see the need to do it, because there aren't any other stakeholders apart from, the close-knit people who are there within the company or the organization. However, the advice that I give and what I would say is, even if you are small scale, you should have a cash flow forecast. You should have a budget. You should have the management accounts on a monthly basis. And the only reason I'm saying that is because if in the future you do go, you're a bit highly geared, you have too much debt, and it's seen as a bad thing, then at least you can see where you're headed. And it's not just that, it's great for your credit purposes and for loan purposes. It makes a big difference if you have, a good structure, a good set of accounts and management accounts and forecasts. It looks really good to investors.
Okay, so I suppose we're talking about something that a lot of startup businesses, I know certainly had I known all the fundamentals of accounting, I'd say maybe 20, 30 years ago, then I think I'd probably be a lot more poised to be a lot more focused in terms of delivering things, because if you know what your numbers are, then you can be more specific about your cash flow and what sales targets you need, what resources you need. So I think a lot of these things are really basic for somebody like yourself. But how do you actually get small businesses to actually wake up and smell the coffee? Because if they just did some of these very basic things, which is basic housekeeping, it could fundamentally grow their business. Because I think it's probably quite a frustrating job actually being an accountant, because when you see people, you think, okay, if they only spent 2 hours doing this per week, that could make a difference of a couple of £100,000 for them per month, because that means they would be more aligned with their target. I actually see that in my business quite a lot, or businesses, in terms of when I'm looking at the numbers. But how do you contain your frustration? Because I presume that is very frustrating, because but you can't really. If you try to do everything, then you probably end up pulling your hair out. But at the same time, where do you draw the line?
Well, yes, and I think that's a case-by-case basis. There are people who will understand. So if I'm sitting there and I'm doing a portfolio, I'm looking at somebody's case and I'm giving them a tax planning consultation, I will tell them that it's not just about tax, it's about, like what we spoke about, housekeeping. And if you're good at it, then it's simple, it's straightforward. I mean, I suppose when you're in it, you can see it. For me, it's very clear, it's very straightforward. And like you said, I mean, obviously it's clear for you as well, but it's not for other people. So I would use analogies that they understand, depending on whatever their business is and how important it is for them and what difference it could make, especially if you can show them in a monetary value, as in, this is how much you could save by doing this, just by this. And that's how I normally do it. But what point do I draw the line is, I think when you repeat it, I normally go 3 times. But 3 times, the 4th time I won't bother after that, because at the end of the day, it is down to, their business is personal to them. They are the person running it, and there's only so much advice that you can give. And after that, it is their decision.
Okay, well, we've got a special guest on as well today. Ask what's the question? I think it's MC Fem, aka I can see her in the background because I've got a lot of high tech on my phone actually,
Right.
even though I'm in the car. So, Fem, MC Fem, you put wave, and then you got a question for us, I presume. Is that right?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I might have had a question. I've just had to get kids to school, do some work. All the questions have gone out of my head. But how is everybody? Happy Monday.
Yeah, happy Monday. So we've got two fabulous people now. So we've got the barking spiritual accountant, and we've got MC Fem. I mean, what more could I ask for on a Monday morning? I mean,
What more could a man want? I know. A blonde and a dark-haired girl. There we go. What a Monday you're having, Lakhi.
I think you're making me blush now, MC Fem. I don't think I have the skills to cope actually.
Hi, Raman. Nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you too, Berry.
We haven't met before.
We haven't, no. How are you?
I'm okay. Yeah, I mean, it's all like all Mondays. You think it's going to be relaxed, and I was working late last night, so yeah.
Can't
but, sorry,
you can't tell you were working late last night.
Actually, I did go running. I go running every day, so I have ran 5K this morning by the beach. So
wow.
Quite early. But of course, I think because the clock has gone forward an hour, yeah, I'm kind of catching up because obviously it was dark this morning at 6:15.
Wow.
That's kind of strange. So I think MC Fem's got the good life because I think are you by the sea, aren't you? Is it,
yeah.
Brighton?
I'm down in Brighton, yeah. So we're just waiting for the staycation hordes to start arriving. It was crazy here last summer, and I don't know what's going to happen this Easter because obviously we're still in a lockdown, but it's eased a bit today. So if the weather is good, I think it might be a bit crazy here this weekend. But I also have holiday lets, but we're not able to open them at the moment. So just having to police who's coming. Of course, it can just be key workers or construction people. But yeah, I have a feeling it might be a crazy weekend. So it's difficult because obviously when they come to the sea, there's nowhere open, there's no pubs, there's nothing. So it causes a lot of problems. So we'll see.
Okay, well, I think lots of stuff going on. I think with the pandemic, there's a huge flux of things happening over the next couple of months, and obviously it's affecting all of us. I mean, wanted to go back to today's topic, which is working from home, an opportunity. So with Lakhi Singh, the property fixer, we've actually got a sort of like an associate model where people can go out, well, not necessarily go out, but they can stay at home actually and do their work from home and set up an online business where they can help people in property. So I'm just wondering, just wanted to check with you guys, what do you make of such an opportunity? Do you think, which way do you, I think, let's speak to Raman first. Which way do you think the market's going? Because my guess is that by October, November time, finances are going to be a lot tighter for a lot of people, and especially property and business people, and they're going to have to restructure themselves. And I'm talking about people that are holding portfolios. Anybody that's got sort of cash flow businesses like rent or service accommodation, or they've got options and things, they may not be as badly affected. But anybody that's holding assets, their assets or their interest rates, if they go up, that's going to be a problem. So we've set up a model where people can introduce business to us, where they've got clients who've got a repossession matter, negative equity issue, they've got a finance issue, they've got a business cash flow issue. I think based upon our discussion with Raman last time, I think she was saying that that's probably going to be, keep us very busy. So Raman, just what's your take on the market? Do you think working from a home opportunity where you can help people in property and business is going to be pretty big? Because I think that's what I'm lining up to try and help people in this sort of weird sort of vacuum of where we are, because it's almost like an unknown territory. And I think September, October time is when it's going to start getting a bit dire. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I am in agreement with what you're saying. As soon as the government takes away the funding and the support and the help that they've provided, a lot of people are going to feel it, especially those who are geared higher, who have higher debt and negative equity. And yeah, they're definitely going to feel it. And to be honest, yes, at that point, they are going to need the support and they are going to need the help, and they will need to restructure. So everything that they have will need to be looked at to see how they can be helped. And they can be helped, that's the thing. Not to, sit there and think that there's nothing that can be done. There is still help. Even, you might be at the end of your rope and think that there's nothing you can do, but there is always something, there is always a way. Yeah, I think it will be. And I think your timing is right as well, towards the end of the year. Yes, September, October time.
Okay, so what's your thoughts, MC Fem? Because I think obviously both of you run businesses. Raman's is obviously more focused on supporting businesses from a technical point of view and ensuring that they meet certain governmental deadlines, timings, etc., and also help them to manage their business more effectively. But obviously, MC Fem, you're more of an entrepreneur, run sort of multiple businesses, your own property business, and as well as advisory, I suppose, in interior design, from what I remember. So do you think an opportunity like this could work? And are you in agreement that do you think things are going to get dire, or do you have a different opinion? It'll be interesting to know.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're still, obviously we're still not out of the woods here. We still haven't seen the true picture of unemployment in the UK. I think the other thing is it's been nearly a year now, being a lot of support, financial support coming in from the government. I think a false sense of security has been happening as well for people. I can only see with what's been happening, and we're in for the next few years are going to be really tough, I believe. And there will be a rise in taxes and all sorts of things. And I suppose my biggest fear is just that the offices aren't going to go back. The inner city areas aren't going to be revived. The number of hospitality businesses and that. We just still haven't seen the true figure. So I really hope we don't feel like we've fallen off the side of a cliff, which, the furlough, not the furlough, but the bounce back loans have got to start being paid back from June. How's that going to affect people? I think, we've had a massive property boom. Will some of those people who've remortgaged and maybe got more of a expensive house with a bigger garden, are they going to lose their jobs? So, we've been in a huge boom in property, which is completely crazy when you think about it. And where is this going to end? That is my concern, really is. And also landlords in particular have had very little support from the government. The only support has been if you've got holiday let. So I'm actually selling some of my portfolio at the moment, to be honest. I'm leveraging a little bit, putting more of my finances into the financial markets, pivoting slightly, I would say, de-risking as much as possible. But then on the other end of the scale, people are smashing it, increasing their business tenfold or whatever. So nobody knows, do they? Let's be honest. None of us know what's going to happen. But I think what you're doing will absolutely be necessary. We can't go through something like this without there being a downturn, and it'll all be driven, I feel, by unemployment and complete disappearance of certain businesses, which in turn will be people's homes. Don't like to think about it, but I think you're absolutely right. It's going to be needed, definitely. And,
Okay,
and not just in residential, what's going to happen in the commercial sector as well, really.
Okay, I mean, it's quite a sort of, in some ways, quite a sad note that we're starting the morning on in some ways. But I think it is a really, really strange time. It's unprecedented. I think somewhat, in some ways, we're blessed that we're there to sort of support people and help them. But at the same time, it is very daunting actually to think about how many people are going to have to go through so much pain and flux that they're not mentally. I think a lot of people are going to be suffering sort of somewhat mental health issues, and I think that's going to be one of the biggest issues, because the stress, the anxiety, with the amount of things that are going on, I'm just wondering, is it actually possible for anybody to actually not to be stressed in this environment? I remember about 20 years ago going on a 2-hour sort of training session in one of my companies, and young Scottish lady doing a presentation about how people deal with stress. And she was just saying that we could only deal with one major event that's stressful at a time. So if you have one more to deal with on top, then how are we actually going to cope? And your performance, apparently, based upon that presentation, I still remember it because some things stick in your mind. Your performance then falls by, let's say, 50%. If you've got one stressful event, you're still at maybe 80, 90. But if you've got two going on, so if you've got, let's just say, you lost your job and you haven't got, both husband and wife, but haven't both got their incomes because furlough's over. And then if you've got a portfolio and then tenants aren't paying because they've got their own issues, then how you're not going to be able to cope with those sort of things. And if you've got 2-3 young kids and you've got to pay the bills, then I'm just wondering how and who is going to be able to get those people out of that problem. And if their portfolio is geared at, say, even 75%, and the market tightens, you're not going to be able to get hardly anything out of those properties if they're 75% geared, especially if everybody starts selling at the same time. So there's a lot of dynamics in place that are going to be tough. But I think it's really good to hear what MC Fem is doing. Obviously, being a sort of person who's vested into the property market, and also being a businesswoman, that you're thinking ahead and actually selling now. That is actually quite a sort of breath of fresh air, that you're thinking ahead, because a lot of people are going to be willing things to happen in a nice way for them, but it may not happen in that way. What's your thoughts, Roman? What's your thoughts about what's going on?
Firstly, I think what MC Fem, what you're doing is great. It's so forward thinking. You're securing yourself. That's great. It's sort of like you said. I think we're bracing for impact, and that's a good thing that you're doing. But 75% gearing, that's pretty high. It's definitely going to need a support function there, because, to be honest, a lot of people see a dead end. Like, there's no way. You can't pay your bills, you can't pay the debts, the furlough stops. And like you said, everyone sells at the same time. Again, supply is higher than demand, then there's not going to be the equilibrium there that you want, or the price that you want. So again, what you're doing, I think what we spoke about last week was that deed of settlement would probably help a lot of those people out if they were to get to that point. And if you couldn't restructure their portfolio, it's good to know that you have options all along the way, which is necessary.
Just to fill you in, MC Fem, what's happened is I actually had a 100 property portfolio about 12, 13 years ago, but I actually lost everything in the last crash. So managed to get my shirt back. There we go. but I lost my shirt as well.
I've lost my top as well in property crashes. It's okay. You lose your shirt, I lose my blouse. I get it.
Okay, too much information. Okay, so basically, yeah, went through bankruptcy, went through a divorce, ended up pretty much with zero. And so what we did for about the last 14, 15 years, which is probably sounds a bit crazy, is that we've literally been developing solutions to solve problems in the market that was fairly buoyant. So probably going out to events and meetings where everybody's buying training courses or selling the rah-rah in property, then there's one person who's saying, okay, well, things may not be quite that good. Things could get worse. So haven't really been going out very much because probably seen as a bit of a leper, sort of selling the saying negative stuff. So only been invited to talk about stopping repossession and more from an investment point of view. But now I think because we've been doing all the contrarian stuff, or the R&D you could call it, in understanding the dynamics of a good market, but dealing with problem clients. So I envisage ourselves getting really busy. So we're looking to scale to help as many people as we can. So the associate model itself is to be able to get people to come on board. It's £2,000 to join, basic membership, but we're giving it away for £0 at the moment. So if anybody wants to come on board and help people. So just to give you a quick, young ladies, a couple of quick case studies of what's happening in the last week, for example. I can't really give too much specific information about the clients, but just to give you an understanding, is we've had a client who's got 3 properties and hasn't been able to pay the mortgage on one of them. So the receivers are being appointed by the bank to take it over. So we've been brought in to come in to actually stop the receivers taking the property on and selling it. Because if they do that, then it's going to have a knock-on effect and the guy's going to lose all his properties. So we're working on that case. Then we've got another one where the client's got 15 properties and he's short on finishing off about 4 projects because he's been caught off guard. And as an accountant, I think Roman probably look at the numbers and think, is that even possible? Because his outgoings, the amount of commitments he's got financially are like, 10,000 a month or something. And the income is about £5,000 a month at the moment. Wow. In terms of the sort of loans and debts that this particular client took on. So we've had to find some private lending for him on a bridge to bail him out of that problem. But a lot of these people have like multiple problems. They're like, but they're all nothing to do with business actually, but 90% of them are mostly around that person not understanding how to manage their emotions around business or property, and they basically just do all the things that are, well, you could call them, as they say in America, rookie mistakes. Yeah. So that's the second client. Third client, we're getting a lot of clients that have got self-employed income, but they don't know how to go about finding a property or buying a property. So although we don't do lease, installment contracts or purchase option contracts, I'm getting a lot of people that want to give me purchase option contracts all of a sudden. So I'm saying to people, okay, if you haven't got hardly any income, hardly any credentials like good credit file, but you've got good income, you could probably look at doing lease purchase option where you could, not sure if Roman's aware of how these work, but basically it's a 10-year contract, but you're paying above and beyond the rent on the property to the seller, and then you're paying a fat payment at the end to buy the property. But it's a win-win because the seller gets a bit more cash flow the purchaser gets an investment property where there's thin payments up front while they're building up their capital from their cash payments. And if they haven't got a good, as I say, credentials or good credit file, then it's a good way of somebody getting in there. Although the legals on it are not that strong, from what I've understood. Do you know much about lease option, purchase contracts, installment contracts, MCFM?
Yes, I know quite a lot about purchase lease options. And obviously there's also now the rent to buy scheme, that type of thing. Not the new build rent to buy, but what's zooming ahead now is the older properties rent to buy. So yeah, I think you will see more purchase lease options happening in the marketplace. And don't forget, let's look at how many people have become self-employed now, especially the younger generation. There is no traditional job anymore, is there really? Unless it's a certain profession. But I do think the 95% mortgages has helped a little. But yeah, I think I know quite a bit about purchase lease options. But obviously it has to have a very good contract on both sides, and it has to be done correctly. And it's each individual deal is different, and it's all about the negotiations, and it has to work for the vendor. That's the most important thing on the purchase lease option, really. And also, obviously, the person who's going to rent it to buy it eventually has to be able to keep up those payments. So, yeah, it's a commitment as well.
Okay, well, I think we've probably got a lot of clients actually wanting those sort of contracts, but I'm actually getting a lot of, because of where we're sitting in property and fixing problems, I'm getting a lot of senior people that have really good options. They're happy to give me and my clients first bite at the they've got as well. So happy to sort of discuss and help people, because I don't really get involved in buying stuff myself at all. I keep myself quite kosher, if that makes sense. I don't really get involved in the clients and trying to solve their problems and buy stuff from them, because it's just it's not really good practice from my point of view. So Raman, do you know much about purchase lease options, or have you come across those sort of things?
I've come across them a few times. I understand how they work. I know a little bit about them. I don't know lots about them. Obviously, on the book side, I do know quite a bit about them. But I think they might actually be a good option, especially for people who can, like MC Firm said, if you can keep up with those repayments or those payments to begin with, then I think that's the key. But I know you pay over. Is that usually settled with the client? Is that the investor's choice as to how much premium you pay?
I think it's all down to negotiation.
Right.
So I think it's also about vendor education, because if I think MC Fem, I'm sure, is like a very good negotiator. So I don't think I'll be able to beat her in any negotiations, actually. But if see, I think you just literally smile and everybody just say yes, of course, MC Fem.
I wish it was that easy.
We agree with you, MC Fem.
I think that's the problem. When I smile, it's all gone out the window. They're like, oh, she's not serious.
No, I'm sure you can tell on the charm, MC Fem. I think you're very humble.
I think the point you're making, though, Lakhi, because I used to develop abroad, Raman. I was a property developer overseas for 8 years, and I also was over there when the huge crash hit and what have you. Eventually, what destroyed my business was the mafia there, and I ended up having to leave there 5.5 years ago and come back to the UK with nothing and start again. And I'm very much aligned with Lakhi. I know the pain of having nothing. I know the pain of small children and no money and the stress and how to start. you know, when you have a family, or when you've lost your business, or when you've gone through divorce, or and it's just so awful that I keep thinking of what's happening at the moment, and how there is such a hype at the moment, and how, again, I feel people aren't really understanding risk. And when I say, even in the property world, oh, I'm not buying at them. I'm always looking, but I'm not particularly buying at the moment. And you know, I am concerned, really. I am very concerned about people's mental health, about people losing their businesses, especially people with long-term businesses in restaurants and pubs and cafes, and, you know, all sorts of businesses, generations of businesses. And, you know, I am very concerned. And I think what Lakhi is doing is because you've gone through that pain, and we need people like you there to support people who are, unfortunately, it's like a horrible business to be in, but it's come out of your own experience. And so it's so needed. We will continue to go through crashes, to go through boom times. That is just life, isn't it? But still, I feel people are still risk adverse, you know, and still, I mean, so many people, even with good property portfolios, who have no cash. They have no cash flow. So don't always assume people who have a lot of property, or appear to have a lot of property, have a lot of money. That's another thing to say. So yeah, I'm very risk adverse. I'm very risk adverse for my investors, because I've been through the pain of that, and it's not very nice. And I don't know for anybody, really. So I think what you're doing and what you're scaling is amazing. It's really good.
I mean, it's a very good panel, actually, between the three of us, because we've got quite a diverse sort of knowledge and understanding. But we all seem to be very similar in understanding the fundamentals, really, of the numbers and the way business works. And my the feeling I get, because I've got quite a good sort of feminine intuition, actually, quite funny enough, is that I only wish somehow we could meet people that are going through this and help them to raise their vibration, because I reckon 90%. I don't know whether you guys agree, because it's a little bit of a left field conversation now. But if everybody that's in property or business, or is even in employment and finding some sort of difficulty, a lot of it is that if they get caught up in the stress of things and the rabbit in the headlight type situation, then that in itself is the bigger problem, because haven't got the capability psychologically to bring yourself up a level and up a notch, to be able to see a helicopter view about what's really going on. And that's actually where I can actually feel it now, that I actually feel that that's the biggest problem, because being a rabbit in the headlights is really where I think majority of people are now in what's going on with the current economic and COVID-19 sort of climate. And I'm just wondering if somehow we could deal with that, then all the business stuff is actually easier to envisage, because then you can actually think of a way around some of these things. But if you're not psychologically adept to actually realizing that you're the problem, that you're yourself are going to be the problem because you're not going to be able to handle it, then that in itself actually is going to be your downfall. And luckily, when I had because I've got the experience, and I think obviously we all been through some sort of turmoil somewhere in business, but I think I'm quite open about it. Luckily, when I went through it, I had 100 people calling me, saying, banks calling me saying, "Where's our money? Why is it not paid this month?" You know. So I took on a consultancy. I gave them my phone, and they dealt with all my phone calls, because I couldn't really. I would actually literally like lost the will to sort of live type situation. Obviously, I'm not that crazy to be thinking like that, but I just gave my phone to them because I couldn't really handle the stress of even one phone call, let alone about 100 of them. So I'm just thinking, because having been through that, how often do you find, Raman, that your clients, the issues are more to do with the way they're looking at their business because of their stresses around it? And it's not, the business itself is usually quite easy, I think, in my opinion. But would you guys agree?
Yeah.
Raman, that was asked you first.
Yeah, absolutely. That is correct. I think I was going to say 90% of the time that is the case. Usually there is a solution and it's there, or you can always find a way, but it is about how you're feeling and how you're thinking about things. Because if you're thinking, this is the end, I can't get out of it, then you are in a hole and you're not going to be able to get out of it. But if you keep thinking, actually, I'm okay, because you as a person, we've learned so much. We have such a vast knowledge and there's so many resources at hand. But if we're closing our eyes, or like you said, you're caught in the headlines, you're not going to be able to see it because you're just blinded by what you think the problem is. You're never going to see the solution. So yeah, that is correct. Raising vibration is huge. It's and it's so necessary, because right then, when you raise your vibration, you're not only in a different frame of mind, you also have so many options. You think, oh wait, I can do this. Like you said, the consultancy thing that you did, I would never have thought of that. Let me pass the phone over to somebody else. They can deal with this. Let me just deal with what I'm doing. That's a great way of doing it. Or MCFM, when you lost everything overseas, you came over, you started again. That's a fantastic way of doing things. Raising your vibration is what's key, because you're more important than your business or your assets or what you have.
Okay, well, there we have it from the spiritual accountant. And I think I actually led her down that path, led Raman down that path anyway. Was it me who led you up there, or was that something that you wanted to say anyway?
It is something that I would say, because it's part of who I am. But obviously, you do the leading.
Perfect. But I actually like got a very, very strong feeling that this is what it's all about. It's actually about raising vibration. And I mean, this kind of come out a bit strange. I wish I could just hug everybody out there who's actually going through that pain and just tell them, right, it's going to be all right, because that's all they really need. They don't really need much more. They just need somebody to give them a feeling that there's somebody to support them, to love them through these difficult times. But because they haven't got that, because of lockdown, because of isolation, because the pressure is on, luckily when I went through this, I did have actually family, and out of about 100 people I was working with, I think one person turned up. And I can't really tell you too much, but it was actually VJ Sal who turned up for me. He was the only person that turned up. He used to come to my house at 5 o'clock every morning for about 5 years, pick me up to make sure that I wouldn't wallow in my self-pity. So even though he's got really the corniest and the worst sense of humor out of any human being I know, he's not here now, so we can say that. Then that's something I had to suffer for 5 years in the car. So you got to thank him for his raising my vibrations anyway, all those years ago. What do you reckon, MC Fam? It's quite for me, it's sort of almost like it reminds me, taking me back to 14 years ago when I had to go through it. And even now, I'm sure we're all going through this vibrational change ourselves as well. But before I'm going to ask MC Fem, we've got Deborah Sophia Magdalene, who's the vibration queen. She's saying, I agree, Lakhi, raising your vibration and seeing situations from a higher perspective is key. Developing resilience, emotional intelligence, being able to change state. This is why I'm so passionate about my work. And she's written, yes, hugs and a sense of belonging. So MC Fem, what do you feel? Because I can actually feel what you're going to say anyway. I sort of feel you.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I think we have to think about the ego, and I think it's when our businesses are built, or our homes, or our status, or whatever we have is coming from the place of ego. That's when you feel you've lost everything. I did find that abroad, because my ego was built in my business in a way. I was my business, and what I did, and my ego, and building luxury villas and living the dream, and my kids in private school and going out on yachts, and that was quite ego based, I feel, which is why the loss of that was so bad for me, if you see what I mean. Now I'm not built from the ego anymore. I have a much more steel core, and no matter what happens in my business, I'm detached from that, because I have a business, but I'm not the business. So I'm not the job. I'm not the house. I'm not the schools my kids go to. I'm not the fancy place I might get my hair cut, which I don't at the moment, actually. I do it myself. So I think, and those people who commit suicide when their whole business goes under is because they have not seen any difference between, and then when you're coming from the ego, you're on a very low vibration. So I think that probably needs to be talked about more, and I don't feel it is, because when we start talking about vibrations and energies, the world has shifted. It's something that is talked about much more in the mainstream now, but for most people in business in the UK, it's not really something that's talked about. You know, you're not going to get Boris on his things going, right, everybody, let's keep a high vibration here. Let's remember we're not our business. We're not this. We're not. Those conversations are not happening. They're not talking really about mental health, about eating good food, about exercising. So the really main things that are going to get us through this is not even being discussed or acknowledged. But it's good, like we're having this discussion, but how many people are having this discussion, really? And things do fall apart. How many people are actually telling people why this is falling apart is because of your attachment to this, and your attachment to this is not real, because this is really not who you are in your core, and you've got to find your core and find who you are, and then you will never lose everything. You only lose everything if you lose yourself, and I've had to learn that one, but and I teach that to my children, but we're not teaching this in schools. We're not teaching this in business courses. We're not even teaching this in management courses, or we're not teaching this in property courses. So you know, if I could, I'd go on a bus around the UK spreading the word, but I'm not allowed to travel. So yeah.
I mean, what you're saying is such a priceless point, I would say, for a lot of people, but a lot of people won't necessarily engage or connect or really understand it the way that point needs to be understood, because I think it's a very profound point, which is letting go of greed, ego, and you could sort of say selfishness. And but commercialism itself is actually a lot of selfishness. It's quite sort of a contradictory thing, that we need money to pay for things and have a decent lifestyle. So how would you say, Raman, you could draw the line between ego and purity, because they're two completely contradictory things. I actually sit in Mayfair every day and I sort of cringe with about 90% of things that I see. A lot of things do actually disgust me. Yeah, very honest, because I'm very, I'd say I'm quite a spiritual person. But in business, when you're dealing in the core of London, you see a lot of nasty things, and I wouldn't really want to be associated with those sort of people or that type of culture either. I actually see myself as a UK-wide or international entrepreneur, and not really caught in the vices of Mayfair, which is a tiny bit dark sometimes. So how will you distinguish that? I mean, it's quite an interesting topic.
And again, it's different for everybody because everybody is made up of different things. Even though we are made up of ego and our soul, which is the purity side, we're made up of so much more. Everybody has, somebody's purer than someone else, or somebody's ego is higher than somebody else. So it completely depends on how attached you are to yourself or your things or what you've made. And what MC Firm said before, it's the attachment that is usually the biggest issue. And obviously our pride, which comes into it. So it completely depends. And the other thing is, if you do things that require your focus, so not only business or your work, but some form of spiritual meditation or some kind of focus, then you're able to stay with yourself more in the present more, rather than thinking towards the past and being depressed about how you don't have what you have, or thinking about the future and being anxious as to what it's going to bring. Instead, don't lose today and the opportunities you have today. So that is where you lose the ego, if that makes sense.
There we go. Another very important point from a spiritual accountant. If you can let go, I suppose, the ego, and then everything becomes a lot easier. I'd say, yeah, I would agree. I think I was trying to work out how much of an ego I had. When VJ Sal came to help me, he said, he actually said to me that well, I'm not even going to say it, actually, it's a bit embarrassing, but he actually, I'll just say it in a slightly different way. He said that you're you're not even like materialistic. He said to me, he goes, you don't even like care about money, because you just drive an ordinary car, you got like an ordinary house, you're not sort of like lavish in what you do. So, so the question is really, I think I just lost out. I think it wasn't ego so much. It's just naivety, because I just thought the markets are really going to go up and up and up, and I think I was enjoying the deal making. Like, I got a deal. So I think it wasn't ego. I think it's more of an addiction to deal making, because I just sort of love making deals. It's good fun. So I think it. So I think being aware of one's behaviors is very important, because I mean, I'm a non-drinker, non-smoker, don't do anything that's, even given up coffee now and tea. So don't do drugs, coffees and teas. So I'm just thinking, but nobody's perfect. You still got certain vices or certain traits, and you've got to learn to be able to counter them. So I actually think I enjoy the thrill of actually maybe negotiating or winning a contract, or maybe, there's probably still not perfection in terms of how I like to be. So where do you draw the line then, the MCFM, in terms of being a business person and letting yourself, drawing a line between getting too attached to things? It's quite a difficult balance, isn't it? I mean, if you didn't do your running this morning, your meditation, I'm sure the day would be different for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's the daily rituals for me, really. Also, I have a tendency to be a workaholic for no particular reason. I try not to be, but I am. So yeah, you're right. You're always going to have vices, or you're always going to have things. I suppose gratitude is probably how I live my days. I think gratitude is enormous, really. I wish I'd learned about gratitude a long time ago. I would say I've lived my life in a lot of gratitude probably for the last 4 years, so that's made a huge impact. But yeah, I don't have I think it's just pure living, going back to basic, the body, the mind, the spirit. And when you do go off track, as you will, because you've built those rituals and that is the biggest part of you, it's much easier to come back again, because obviously we're all going to have difficult times in life. Things are going to come at us that we're not expecting, but it's much more easier to deal with that when you have that clear headspace, which you get from meditation, or I have quite a strong faith, so you know, it's things that you can't see, those things that aren't physical things, I suppose, is what makes the biggest difference in my life, for sure.
Okay, I think this morning is more like a Sunday morning sermon.
Yeah,
For
Sunday.
the non-believers out there. So you've got the spiritual accountant and you've got the spiritual MCFM. But I actually think that this is probably one of the best interviews, because VJ Sal isn't here, but it's me doing it. But I think my interviews are a bit more profound. But VJ Sal probably have a big argument with me about that later. But I think we have touched on a very important topic, which is that whatever issues you've got in your life, whatever's going on, whether it's health or money or business or COVID-19 or whatever's happened, basically can't control those things around you, but you can control yourself. You can actually look after yourself. You can love yourself. And I think if you set yourself a very positive intention, which is to say that everything's going to be fine for me, and work on the positive, you'll find that everything will start happening around you. I mean, this morning I came out with that intention, and two wonderful ladies were popped up on the screen. I mean, amazing. I mean, this has made my whole day. Can you feel the vibration?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. Actually, I find this conversation has calmed me down from when I first came on. So yeah, there's a fantastic energy, and we're all aligned, which is so nice. You don't get that often, if you know what I mean, or you don't feel comfortable enough to maybe share that in certain situations, or you know. So yeah, it's very nice.
Yes, I think the audience, us, we're all blessed, really, to really be having this conversation, really, because I think it's really for the audience, the community, to realize the conversation we're having, really how powerful it is. So I am like really feel truly blessed for this conversation. This could be life-changing. I'm not even joking. It could be life-changing for millions of people out there who listen to this and really took it to heart. I certainly feel it's life-changing for me, and I'm definitely going to take it to heart, no matter what anybody thinks or says to me about it. So I know we've overrun today, but I think we've touched upon vibration and actually raising the vibration. So what I'd like to do is just have a quick minute from each of you, just to sort of say, because we now understand where we are, we understand detachment, we understand what we need to do. Raman, what is it, daily practice that you think people could be doing to try and take themselves into a position of detachment so they can run a better life or run their business more effectively? What is it that, just give us 2 or 3 tips that you think could work and help them, because now we've touched upon it, and I'll give my summary of the business opportunity afterwards.
Okay. So I think the first thing when you do wake up in the morning, don't reach for your phone to see your social media or the news or what's happening that's bad. Put yourself in a good frame of mind, whether that's meditation, whether that's listening to calming music or going for a run, or anything that puts you into that really great vibe the first thing in the morning. And then see that vibe in your mind mentally for everything that you do in your day, and allow that to touch everything that you do, and just it will make a huge difference.
There we have it from our spiritual accountant. What's your firm called, Raman? So we need to make it international now.
It's DNS Accountants Banking.
There we go. With Raman, she will change your DNA to DNS. The DNS stands for superb. Well, your DNA will be superb after you've dealt with Raman. How's that for your marketing slogan?
That's amazing. I think I might give you the contract for that.
Okay, you heard it here first. Yeah. So MC Fem, same question to you. I really love your energy, MC Fem. You've actually really touched my soul, by the way.
Oh, thank you. And thank you, Raman. I loved your words, actually. I can't add to those. I suppose I would just say to everybody, the world, to be honest, you know, we are going to go through some tough time in the next few years. I just feel that. I think you guys feel that. And that's probably to do with our empathy and our energy and what we're feeling and how connected we are to the universe. And I feel if people learn the art of gratitude, that it will get you out of depression. It will get you out of tough times. It will get you through the days. It will get you through the next hour. And so I would always say, if you start the day and you're just not feeling it, just find those things to be grateful for. And even if it's tiny things, and every single day, 10, 20 times a day, depending how you're feeling, keep using that and it will change your life. Absolutely. And anyone can do it. It's that simple.
Okay, perfect. We've got a couple of minutes, but well, we haven't got minutes at all, but I'm just going to add on a couple of minutes. Everybody's okay with that.
It's going to be a whole morning. We're like TVAM now from 6 to 10.
That's right. I think watch out, GMTV. Piers Morgan's gone now. I think we're taking over.
He needs you, Lakhi.
He needs us. Okay. So 2 amazing summaries of really some tips for everybody out there about what you could be doing to actually be in your flow. And if you feel that you're not in your flow at all, even if you're 1% out, then do DM us in the community and feel welcome to DM me directly, because I've got a lot of love to share. A lot of people don't believe it, but I am 24 hours. So if you wanted to call me 3 o'clock in the morning, I don't really mind, to be honest. I'm happy to sort of help or assist. Long as it's not every single night at 3 o'clock. It might be a bit disturbing, but okay. So
that's a different kind of call.
Cool, yeah. So Mary, what are you saying?
I said that's a different kind of call altogether.
Okay. Okay, good point. I like that. Right. So where was I? So basically, to summarize, if you're looking to work from home and you're looking for a new income opportunity, the property fixer here, Lakhi Singh, we're offering that out to you. But what I want you guys to remember is that the opportunity is just an opportunity. It's really about you raising your vibration. If you raise your vibration, you're going to be able to help lots of people. And if you can help people, you'll find that whatever opportunity that we've got for you will have meaning to it, and it will actually give you a better vibration about yourself, and actually while you're helping people, and you'll make money. So that's my sort of message for today. So lots of love to everybody out there, from Lakhi Singh, the property fixer, and my 2 angels here, Raman and MC Fem. I'm blessed, actually. So I don't think I've actually felt this good in years and years. So I actually am truly blessed. Okay. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
You have a wonderful day. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Raman. Lovely to meet you.